as chief whip in Parliament during that crazy period in the Zuma years, you rose to prominence. And I just want to know what those Zuma years in Parliament were like, maybe a bit behind the scenes, because we've all seen the videos of, you know, the parliamentary battles at the time, but what was it like behind the scenes with no confidence debates? You know, there was the, you know, chanting, police were being brought into Parliament, we were all transfixed by Parliament at the time, and of course you were a key player in all of that. What was that like? Any anecdotes or stories that you can share with us?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think it was a very scary time for parliamentary democracy, because what you saw was a parliament completely subjugated to serve the interests of an individual rather than it serving the interests of the people of South Africa. And you had members of parliament sitting in parliament not upholding the constitution, not speaking up for the people who elected them, but instead completely servile to the interests of a single individual, being Jacob Zuma. And you even saw presiding officers that were willing to completely defang Parliament to make it life easier for Zuma and his executive. And I think those were dangerous times for Parliament, because you know, I think if there hadn't been a reset and a reassertion, Parliament would be a lapdog that was completely useless and unable to do what it needs to do. So there were a lot of anecdotes behind the scenes, and the big thing for me and the interesting thing was to talk to ANC MPs behind the scenes over a glass of wine in one of the parliamentary bars, and to actually hear their frustration about what was going on, but the sort of complete sort of subservience that the whole party had to act in service of Zuma, and they knew what was going on was wrong. I can tell you, Nkandla revolted as many ANC MPs as it did DA and other opposition MPs. But there was just this feeling within the party that this was a strong man you couldn't stand up to, and if you didn't defend him, you were going to be thrown to the wolves, and you were then the enemy. And we saw what happened to people like Makosi Khosa and Ben Turok and others who had the courage of their convictions to speak up. They were completely targeted and treated like outcasts. So you know, that was very interesting to me. I think one of the lowest points for me was when Ranjani gestured to me from the gallery, the press gallery, because we couldn't work out why there was no signal in the chamber.
Right.
And she signaled to me saying, there's a signal jammer here. So I left the chamber and ran up, and there was a security guard who did a half-hearted attempt to stop us getting in there, and there it was. The State Security Agency had placed a signal jammer in Parliament. It was the one place where you should be sharing ideas and information with South Africa. There was a signal jammer blocking the signal so people wouldn't be able to tweet what was going on in their parliament and share what was going on with their parliament. I think it was a really low point. But then again, you know, the fight back against that started in earnest, and parties like the EFF and the DA started to find common ground on reasserting parliament. And so I think the fifth parliament particularly is going to be remembered, I think, as a time when parliament started to get its act together and get its teeth back. So like it or loathe it, the robustness, the scenes in the House, I think were a necessary reset for us to re-establish Parliament as the crucible of the national debate again. And I still maintain that had Parliament been functioning effectively and efficiently as it did over the fifth Parliament in the previous two Parliaments, a lot of the state capture, a lot of the failure of state-owned entities, a lot of the corruption, maladministration would have been headed off at the pass, and South Africa would have been able to dodge a bullet. But it was because those parliaments were made completely subservient to the interests of the executive rather than the people of South Africa that they just became toothless. And I hope that Parliament's now going to, having learnt the lesson from the Eskom inquiry, having learnt the lesson of how a robust Parliament can actually make change, how the brinkmanship that was experienced there was able to push Jacob Zuma over the edge, realizing he couldn't actually have his way in Parliament again in the motion of no confidence.